So my go-to spread for the highly efficient bait ball spread is trolling 4 40-inch bulb squid spreader bars with 6-inch squids on the inside and outside riggers. I have a bird bar down my center rigger, and then I have 2 harness jigs on my flatline clips. Now, we're just coming up to trolling speed here, so always the first lure I let out is this bird bar spread. And it goes right down the center line. It's out of everybody's way, so I'm gonna send this way back, maybe way back. I send my center line of the bird bar as far as I'm willing to deal with it. And I like the splasher bar down the center for a couple of reasons. One, I don't use a center rigger, and the bird bar sort of takes care of the right angle of the bar. Number two, I can see it. So I can see where that splashing is, so I know where my lure is. Sometimes it gets crowded in the hot spot, so I'll know where I am, and other boats can see where I am. And then lastly, when the boat's out of gear, this will float. This is the first to go out and the last to come in. I'll oftentimes fight and boat 2 fish, while this center rigger is way out and back. So that is step 1 in deploying my highly efficient bait ball spread. So step 2 is to get the spreader bars out on the outriggers. Now it's just me here in the spread, so if there's just one person letting the spreader bars out, I start with one side, complete that side, and then go to the other side. But if you have multiple members in your crew, then each crew sort of handles each side. So I'm gonna let the outside rigger first, and then I'm gonna let the inside rigger out. That way I'm not gonna tangle with the inside rigger while I'm letting my outside rigger out. So outside first, and then inside rigger. So the next step is I'm gonna deploy the first 40-inch flexi bar. So I'm gonna put the rod in the holder. Now I'm gonna back my drag off, not in a free spool, but enough where I can easily pull a little line out. I'm gonna make sure I'm in contact with my outside rigger through the outrigger clip. So I'm being careful to not let this reel go so fast that it gets a backlash, but I have it just backed off enough where it'll come out with a little drag on its own. The beauty of having it in the outrigger clip now is I can let this bar out to where I want it to be. I'm not terribly worried about proper placement at this point because I'll toggle the spread once everything's out. So now we're technically fishing. We have our center rigger out. We've got our first spreader bar out on the outer rigger. Now I'm going to send the second spreader bar out on the inner rigger on the starboard side. So now we're going to bring our line under the rigger. Now you notice that I gave my hand an overhand twist, so it looks like the line is crossed. But this will help us out shortly. So the line's not twisted over itself when it's fully extended. So now we have 3 lures out. The center rigger, starboard outside rigger, starboard inside rigger, and now I'm going to do the port side. So now that I'm getting the port side rigger out, I've instructed the captain to favor a right-hand turn. That way it'll spread my outside lines out so they won't slide under the starboard side lines when I'm letting it out. This should be good for now. Now again, I like to get my lines out and then I worry about placement and getting a nice happy spread. So home stretch, I have 2 flatline clips and an inside rigger. Let's get cracking. So I like to let my inside rigger out a little bit, just so I have some breathing room to work with it. Then I'm gonna run it back, run it under the outside rigger rod and under the outside rigger line. Now again, I'm gonna back the drag off, not total free spool, but enough where it's gonna go with a little bit of pressure. I'm gonna pull my inside rigger line. Now, here's an important tip here. You'll be tempted just to clip the line in, just like this, but by the time it runs up, the line's gonna fold over itself and potentially crimp the line and compromise it. So I like just to fold it over. So right now, it appears that it's crossed over on itself, but you'll see in a minute, by the time I run the rigger up, it'll be in a nice, happy, proper placement. So we have the outer riggers complete. Now I'm gonna do my flatline clips. I'm gonna show you two ways. One with a traditional flatline clip, and the other with a rubber band if you don't have flatline clips handy. So I far prefer flatline clips to rubber bands, because once the clip is clipped, you can adjust the length that your lure is out. But many people don't have these, or if they're on a smaller center console, or any situation where the rubber bands make more sense, that's a good option too. But for starters, I'm gonna show you on a flatline clip. So in this case, I have on a down east boat, I have a real nice scupper where I can send this flatline clip through. Thread this flatline clip through the cleat. Now it's a nice secure connection, and I'm gonna send my flatline clip out the scupper. So now it's skipping in the water, ready for me. Now I have my running line. I'm gonna reach over and connect it to my flatline clip. Sending it through the scupper like this creates a real nice low profile, and you need less line to get the lure in a more proper position. And so now I'm gonna let this harness jig out. So for now, I'm gonna place this harness jig so it's 4 feet in front of the inside bar and about 4 feet inside. So it's a further lane in than the inside rigger. So you have outer bar, inner bar, harness jig. And so there's a nice sort of angled line coming in, and that harness jig is very close to the bar. Now I noticed from past experience, a lot of fish will blow up on these bars and it'll be the flatline clip that goes off. And that's a very common occurrence. And so we've sort of hedged a lot of bets here. We have schools of bait popping on the surface, replicated with these bars. Now we have these small bait fish slash sand eel like imitations swimming in the wash very close to the bars. So we have the final flatline clip to release, and I'll show you how to do it on a rubber band if you don't have a flatline clip. So I've deployed this harness jig. Now, unlike the flatline clip where you can adjust the line, I want to calibrate where I think I want that harness jig. I didn't let it out quite far enough, so I'm going to let it out a little more. And now what I'm going to do is take this running line, I take this rubber band, fold it over the line, and so now I've kept the angle low. And some people clip it on the handle like this. I personally like to put it on the reel seat. It gives it just that much lower of a presentation. So we've deployed our spread, and the final step is making sure it's a happy spread. Now we get a number of questions online, and the questions are, how far back do I troll lures? How fast do I troll? And those are the two most common questions. And my answer is sort of a long-winded one. It's whatever's a happy spread. So today it's FAC calm. It's super, super flat. So there's almost no wrong way to run a spread. And so I will fish the lures back just a little bit on a super calm day. On a super rough day, I'm closer. And but the important thing is I'm running at a speed that my bars are just dancing and pulsing. We're using the flexi bars, so those bars are going to flex before they dumble or dig or do bad things. So they have a very natural presentation of the water. It's super calm. So these bars are just going to flex and pulse and just look like a nervous school of bait. So, so we're just trolling along, and I'll get my spread dialed in. I like to have a series of angles. My spread here replicates a W formation, more or less, with outer rigger, inner rigger, inside flat line, the way back, center rigger with a bird bar. Then you come back in for our flatline clip, inner rigger, outer rigger. And I'll move these bars around throughout the day, and as long as the bars aren't digging and tumbling and looking awkward in the water, I'm happy. And I know from years of experience trolling for tuna, there are days where the fish want it into the wind, downwind, and so I focus more on sort of cracking the code that day. The beauty of this spread for me is I fish this spread pretty much 100% of the time, and I very rarely deviate from this spread as my starter spread in the day. I've been fishing this spread since we started carrying spreader bars, which, gosh, may have been 6-7 years ago. And it's just a perfect, happy spread. And I'm so confident in the spread that I'm gonna forget what lures, what colors, what changes, and I'm gonna focus on the conditions.